Welcome to the Token Tank. I'm Blockchain Brad, and today here at the Token Tank we are going to explore promising blockchain startups and allow them to pitch or update exactly what they stand for. To do this further, we have a very special guest in the house. His name is Rong Chen. He is the founder of Elastos, and obviously we have very important panelists on the show to really allow a platform to really dig deep into what we stand for, and that is objectivity. Firstly, we have Crypto Kanda. She is none other than the leading lady of the crypto conversation. Thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure to be here.
We also have K-Dub, aka the Crypto Zombie. He is bringing life to the blockchain literally, and certainly really allowing for a popular voice to be heard. Thank you very much, K-Dub, for your time as well.
Absolutely, Brad.
And finally, and certainly not last but not least, we have the Crypto Lark, and certainly he is so much more than the Lark of the blockchain. Thank you, Lark, for being here.
Thank you, Brad.
Right, now let's get cut to the chase. Let's really explore what Elastos can do, and let's start with none other than the lady in the house. Kanda, can you lead us through? What's the first question for the day?
So most people know that my first question, or one of my bigger priorities, of course, is storage and safety. So I know the community is very interested in knowing when hardware wallet.
Oh, I have already known that we're going to release the alpha version of Elastos in late August. That said, we actually have already got this SPV wallet working, but officially it's going to be released by the end of this month's alpha stage. Because people should keep in mind that Elastos is a brand new blockchain project. We're not Ethereum, we're not Bitcoin. So that said, we're literally building a new blockchain, right? And so our wallet is somewhat different. So that said, we encourage our partners to develop hardware wallets, app wallets, etc. We don't want to be dominant, right? Because the core team is going to be open source 100%. But for wallets, they're kind of like a product, so they have a competition among themselves. Anywhere there's a competition, we are not going to be involved. We support. So we're going to officially release the SPV wallet by the end of this month, so then people can start doing hard wallet and software application wallets.
So does that mean if Ledger wants to have, or Trezor, somebody wants to have implementation, that you would have like maybe like a SD kit or like the software development kit or something for it? Okay, so they would have to do it on their end then.
Well, for the first few exchanges, right, 5 or 6 of them, we provided support. But we want to make sure the SDK is more and more user-friendly, developer-friendly.
Sure.
Rong, as far as the airdrops that everyone is going to be receiving, will you be updating the ETH address field as well?
Because here's, we definitely were going to update our blockchain wallet middle of August, so in a couple of days. And then the deadline would be August 20th for people to sign up, put their Ethereum wallets in, because that's an extra field in our blockchain wallet.
I think
that's good news.
The first airdrop's actually been announced, hasn't it?
Yes.
Actually, we have a big game in the pipeline, but then we also have IOEX and Butane.
Great.
Very cool.
Now, in terms of community, really something that the community's been really wanting to know a lot more about is the partnerships. We've heard a lot of stories about really, really big partnerships like Foxconn, Panda Energy, Origin, and a few others. So can you now confirm that those are partnerships that Elastos does indeed have, and what does that actually mean for Elastos?
Well, we do work with quite a few potential partners, but the first 3 that I mentioned, they're literally in the pipeline right now. And Origin, we're working with Origin to do the seed tracking provenance kind of thing in China. That's also in the working. And Foxconn was my investor in the past. They have already invested 5 years, but unfortunately at that time it was so-called industrial IoT, smart home network. That was at the very beginning, but then there are some reasons, not totally Foxconn's decision. We have to kind of call it
quits at that time.
It stopped, call it quit at that time. So I'm not going to into too much details, but we still have good relationships with Foxconn. As you know, Foxconn is a huge enterprise. I couldn't commit saying that's the official alliance at this point, even though they were my investors, right? I still have good relationship with the corporation.
Well,
Fantastic.
one official alliance that we know for sure is the G3 alliance as well. So, in what capacity exactly are all of you working together, and what are you trying to achieve with that G3 alliance?
G3 was announced January 4th of 2018. Actually, that time we were thinking to promote open source projects from blockchain. So, actually, if you look at our angel investor, right, Da Hongfei, Neil, and Bitmain, and also our investor includes Huobi as well. But then we didn't invite Huobi being G4 because Huobi did not open source. Huobi is not decentralized. So it's really, we want to promote a decentralized community. We want to promote 100% open source communities. It's not really a line saying exclusive or anything. Have to be have joint projects. That said, we do work with Bitmain doing merge mining. We're also porting Neo smart contracts onto Elastos. But then if you look carefully, Elastos is its own public chain. As I said, it's very unique because we built this blockchain customized for this new internet, right? It's not really blockchain. So we have to customize a lot. That said, we're not really a Neo public chain.
Right.
So then we just
Ron, can I just jump in for a moment, because I want to make sure we hit all these questions, and you and I could talk forever on all these different topics. But Ron, you talked about merge mining, and it is important that people do understand exactly what Elastos does stand for. So for those who don't know, make sure you do go and look into it further with other sources of information. But the key terms here are that you are decentralized by design. You are trying to be essentially a carrier. You're trying to be a decentralized web. There's many different facets, but let's talk about the merge mining right now. That's on the tip of the tongue of many of the listeners we have. Can you tell us exactly what the role of Bitmain is and how that plays in with Elastos?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Bitmain is, for those who doesn't know, Bitmain is the largest POW mining
Bitcoin mining monster.
Yeah, they also make
Mogul.
They do three things. They produce the chips, right? The hardcore silicon, and also they produce the mining machines, and also they are the largest mining pool real estate owners in a way, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're
Right.
massive. Actually, do you, speaking on how big they are, Ron, I mean, a lot of people worry about this merge mining. Do you think it's going to give too much power to Bitmain? Are you worried about that?
Well, a lot of people have concerns. We've heard about them because currently we need to start somewhere, because also Elastos ELA coin is merge mined with BTC. That gives us a lot of confidence, so that people can trust that no small party could manipulate the ELA ledgers, right? That said, but on the other hand, we're really literally building the new internet. We think blockchain as a service. We treat blockchain as a service. So we start with merge mining with Bitmain, but in theory, we could actually merge mine with anybody, right? Who is the mainstream mining power in the world. We could literally switch, but then at this point, we don't have alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And is that still on target for December?
Yeah, actually, we are releasing the alpha versions of Elastos by the end of this month.
Oh,
So
cool.
as I said, after this alpha version, actually not only the wallet should be able to independently be able to develop, and the merge mining could be independently developed as well. So Bitmain would be very likely to be the first one, and very likely it'll be September.
Right. And
Wow,
Rong, I wanted to still talk about your alpha. And the reason is obviously that's more focused on, as you referenced before, for the block geeks and also for those in the industrial sector. But let's talk about the real people and how they can really start to use and interact with Elastus and with Ella as a device. You mentioned previously about 40,000 devices coming on in your plan. Can you tell us about the beta? How can people really start to experience Elastus in the real world?
Well, after this alpha, we're going to today there's another meetup in Shanghai with IOEX. They're going to announce some devices, smart speakers, targeted for Christmas of this year, and because they do have they provide solutions, and there's manufacturers to produce those smart speakers, shipping them to Europe, to US for Christmas season, and we do work with IOEX and make sure their devices are upgradable. They're called OTA, over-the-air update. So those, if the consumer like a check saying, adventurous, I want to try, right? So the devices are open for trial after the devices are shipped out. So then we're going to have they claim quite a bit of devices, but we don't expect all of them will turn on this adventurous experiments, right? But we do expect to have about 40,000 at least people would at least we are going to have our partners to try, right? And so then we're going to release Alpha SDK, try to develop like decentralized IAM, decentralized remote control, which we have really demonstrated during China Joy with Vision 9 of Shanghai. The set-top boxes.
Yes. Yeah. Could you actually go into that? Could you go into that a little bit, Wrong? The IPTV box. A lot of people are curious as to how it works. Is it considered an Elastos carrier? And will you be rewarded? And when will it be available for the public, if it will?
Good question.
It'll be available actually, as I said, after the alpha version. But then, as to what extent, because keeping in mind it's still alpha, it's not really ready for consumer for the world. Alpha is for developers, and it's not even feature complete. It's a proof of concept, basically. We do have the carrier installed onto set-top boxes. First of all, the set-top box is a consumer grade. Literally, it's a consumer quality product. But that's not saying the carrier is, right? Because just basically two things in one. We do have the carrier software in there. And as I said, if people check, it can turn on. And then we can experiment remote controls and decentralized IAM, that kind of features after August, in September, literally. And then between September and December, we're going to basically run this carrier, right? Start to run operations 7/24. And so, but then to what extent, I don't know. And that said, and also people are expecting to have rewards. We're also working with IPFS. Some partners working with IPFS or like a Vuetin on, they call it DPFS, it's decentralized private file systems. So we're working with those kind of generic public storage as well.
Excellent.
So those are all planned for after August, before September.
You guys have a very massive Q4 coming up.
Yeah, and actually,
you're gonna be busy.
Mostly, Elastos. Keep in mind, as I said, we are a decentralized organization. We're not even a company. So, like Vuetin, IOEX, Vision 9, they're all different companies, right? But we work collaboratively, have this common vision. They open source to us, to Elastos community, and rewarded them with coins. And basically, it's the organization grew up like this, right? Organically. So
Right.
There's no Elastos Corporation or Elastos,
And Wrong, just to interrupt for a moment, the reason why we all four of us ask you this so directly is because we hear and see a lot of projects right now that we simply cannot know for sure, and no one really can, that they're going to evolve into some sort of product. Really, they're a theoretical concept, and that's as far as it goes until we can see more of it evolve. What we were asking you and what we're hearing from you is how we can translate into the next phase of products, of being a real-world application and utility. And so obviously inbound in that is the value of the utility itself, of the token. So perhaps, Lark, you want to take this further, but we really are enjoying this conversation of products because we don't hear it with many blockchain startups.
Yeah, because products actually are made by our partners. As I said, IOEX is committed, right, to ship those commercial grade products, right, smart speakers to Europe market. Literally, that's for Christmas market, right? And it's Amazon compatible and Google compatible.
That's great.
And as I said, the Vision 9 set-top boxes, they're actually very mature products. They also have partnerships with lots of well-known brands of set-top boxes in the world. If you look at their websites or look at their announcements. And ViewChain has like 40 million active users, monthly active users today, right? In many, many countries.
It's definitely
so
impressive.
We're talking about real products, real social networks. We're not talking about vaporware kind of thing.
Ron, can I just ask, so, I mean, the tech for Elastos is amazing. I've always been very impressed with it, and reading through any of the documentations is, wow, absolutely. And I know that there's already some partners that are signing up and going, we like what's being developed here, we like this tech, but the blockchain arena, and I know Elastos goes much beyond blockchain, but nevertheless, it is a very competitive space right now. And so how are you actually going to get more developers and more companies to actually build on Elastos? What is the value proposition for them to come and build on you instead of going to Ethereum or Zilliqa or EOS or any of the other guys?
Good question.
Yeah, that's first of all, I appreciate you guys, right, to make the message announcements and make it the getting reach to more audience or public. Secondly, we are doing a new internet project. We customize blockchains. We're not really trying to reinvent blockchains. That said, like Ethereum or some other blockchain projects, of course, they try experiment different consensus algorithms, different ways of increase TPS, but then that's their issue, right? We are concentrating on something completely different, on how do we reach millions or billions of customers, consumers, right, on the internet. That's our focus. At this point, still, Elastos-like projects still rare, and we hope to have more people realize the key actually is in the new internet. It's not really in crowded into reinventing blockchains.
Right, and Ron, in that sense, I want to ask you specifically, now you talk about blockchains almost being layers upon Elastos. Obviously, there's a feature of interoperability that is important for you, but fundamentally, are you saying that you're not really at the core a blockchain project, a blockchain startup? Can you really explain that for us?
Good question.
Well, if you look at our innovation into blockchains, like we have our own public chain, sidechain, merge mining, POW, at the carrier level, POW at the merge mining level, and DPoS at the carrier level, which is very innovative. Mm-hmm. So we also, in terms of team size, it's comparable, right, to most of the blockchain groups, blockchain projects. So in that extent, Elastos is really literally a very real and competitive blockchain team. But comparing to the vision we have, comparing to the graphs, the overall new internet endeavor here, blockchain is really a very, very small portion of the whole project.
Right. So let's bring it down then into the core. What is the core of your project if really the blockchain element is really just a side part or a side note to what you're really about? Because we keep talking about decentralized web, you're the smart economy, but what exactly is the core components of you?
Specifically for me, Ron, and without going into insane detail about TCP/IP layers and stuff like that, but how exactly is Elastos Carrier, different? What are the key features in comparison to traditional TCP/IP and even cell phones, for example?
Great question.
First of all, we have to go back to the vision of blockchain a little bit, because when people talk about blockchains, quite a few projects mentioning about your own data. Or they say something like value internet, so you can share digital assets peer-to-peer, let's go back to that two statements, right? If you own your own data, you have to have a guardian angel protecting your data, because consumers, how does consumer knows how to protect their data? If you put it in your cloud drive, you put it wherever, right? And you need someone to have a digital silo and to quarantine your data to make sure that's yours to protect, right? Mm-hmm. And also when you share data between the two silos, you want to share digital assets peer-to-peer, right? And someone has to guarantee you're not going to be hijacked on your way from one silo to the other one. Literally there to build this digital silo here, right? If you think of operating system, right? So address space and processes, whatever, those are jobs.
Sorry guys, we just had some minor technical difficulties. I'm going to pass it over to KW now for continuing conversation.
Oh, thanks so much, Brad. This is exactly why we've been a little concerned about doing this live. So anyway, getting back to the tech. So your white paper actually discusses Elastos being able to complete mutual transfers with other blockchain systems, which issue their own tokens through your friend sidechains. Can you kind of just give us an example of what this is and how it works?
Yeah, because Elastos support sidechains and friend chains. Friend chains literally is just existing blockchain projects like Ethereum, Bitcoin, that kind of tokens issued. In my mind, there are two things. Every blockchain project you can think of as a single ledger with consensus. A single ledger meaning you can think of it as a single computer, specialized computer for ledgers. Ethereum call it world computers. The world computers, each blockchain is a different kind of world computer. You can say that. And Elastos actually is doing the new internet of computers, right? So not only we connect, the internet connects all the existing servers and cell phones and whatnot, and also we're connecting the different blockchain ledger computers onto the same internet. So then that's, we call them friend chains, because we do have Elastos chain to issue decentralized IDs, because we need to have a single point of issuing IDs for this new internet. That ID is not controlled by any organization because it's based on Elastos ledger, Elastos blockchain. So that said, so long as you're using the Elastos DID, you are onto this new internet already. You have citizenship on the new internet, right? No one has the right to revoke your ID. And that said, of course, you can build in, and also in our SDK, we build in Elastos wallets. That's not saying you cannot build in Ethereum wallets or Bitcoin wallets at the same time, right? Because there are multiple coin wallets. So that said, people can freely trade their own favorite tokens if they like, right?
That's awesome.
In that sense, you are the world's first to do this decentralized web in this way, using the DID, using the decentralized ID system. But obviously, as well, CryptoKenda, you would no doubt know a bit more about the DID. What are you thinking about it in relation to?
I mean, I was a bit more curious about the sidechain. So obviously, the question I think from the community is more so, are you worried about your sidechains being relevant once ETH's deployed? Do you really not see that as a competitor, because you're just saying now that you have these friend chains, so maybe they're going to work hand in hand? Kind of where are you at with that?
Good question.
Again, because we're doing actually literally the platform, the SDK platform is the new internet, and there are some things below the new internet. There's something above the internet, right? And the something below actually is the infrastructure. All those hardwares, literally the TCP/IP hardwares and internet nodes, hardware nodes, and also Elastos public chains and the Elastos system set chains, like DID set chain, digital asset set chain, the IoT device set chains, right? So those are, you can think of there as a internet computer. There's a peripherals, there's a user IDs, there's some file system.
Everybody gets an ID. You get an ID.
And wrong.
That's the system set chain. System set chain Actually, Elastos project won't let third-party developer to touch.
Right.
That's
And Rong,
absolutely sealed off from the internet.
Wrong, and just so people can really understand, because you call them friend chains, but I really want to just make it clear from you, are you saying that all these friend chains, or Ethereum, as you mentioned, is one example, it could be many other blockchains, are they going to need you? That's what I want to know. Are you essential as a bedrock design and a bedrock platform for all of these other friend chains?
As I said, I did a comparison. I think of them as a computer, world computer, whatnot, and we are doing the internet.
Yes, but my question is, do they need you to operate to decentralize in terms of becoming part of the decentralized web?
No, they don't. Because as I said, if you're building a computer, you don't care about the internet. That's your choice.
Okay, but you are professing to be the decentralized internet. So what I'm saying is, for them to actualize their involvement in this process, do they need to utilize your product? Do they need to utilize you and stream through your provisions and what you offer?
There are a lot of competition out there. You know, a lot of lines get blurred between, you know, NKN, Substratum, these different types of, you know, I could go on and name them. I think is that what you're kind of asking, Brad? Like what makes Elastos?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would really want to know from you, Rong, do you feel, because we've talked about this before, you state that you're the world's first startup to really decentralize the web in a proper way, where you have a decentralized carrier, specifically the carrier. So what I'm saying is that no other system has the decentralized carrier capacity. And in that respect, do these friend chains and all these other systems need to utilize you if they want to operate in this decentralized carrier landscape?
They could, but it's up to them, right? Because it's hard, right, to convince folks to at this point, because we have to build this proof of concepts. We have to open source on our end. Whether they believe they want to join, that's their choice.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
I'd like to follow up on, I know we're talking about side chains and friend chains here, and I think it's a good time to bring up Neo in the conversation, because everyone knows that, you know, you're good friends with the people over at Neo and that they've been involved even as investors and things like this. So will Neo be one of the first friend chains coming to Elastos? And can you expand a little bit on the Neo Elastos friendship and what that actually means?
Good question.
They have two things, actually. They have a public chain. Their public chain could be our friend chain, but as I said, it's not. It's their choice. You know, like all the public chains, we are welcoming them to use our DIDs, but then again, that's their choice. Secondly, on the user level, right, we have the third-party side chains. It's not the system side chains. The third-party side chains, which is we consider them as internet applications. The application side chains working to support smart contracts at the user level, at the application level, third party. So then, of course, Neo smart contracts is one of the two first choices. We are supporting, we are literally right now porting Neo smart contracts onto Elastos side chains. We are also porting the Ethereum smart contracts onto Elastos side chains for obvious reasons. Because Ethereum has a larger community, developers community, and Neo is our friend.
Right. And what about the future? Are you going to do others? Are you discussing with other blockchain startups to onboard more of these smart contracts?
We are short-handed. We actually work with partners. And if, as I said, there are some other public chains, smart contracts, they want to be leveraging the new internet, we definitely welcome that. But I'm not sure.
Right. Well, it sounds like there's certainly scope for this. It sounds like there's a possibility there wrong in the future. It sounds like there's a lot happening in Elastos right now.
Just keeping an eye on the clock here as well, guys. I think we have time for about one more question. Who wants to jump in and give it?
I actually have two. I have two more questions.
Two more questions. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Go for it.
All right. I'll be quick. All right. My one question. You were talking about your partnerships and you were discussing how they're spread a little thin right now. But my bigger concern isn't really the partnerships; it's the core team. So, I mean, I understand that you're clearly extremely knowledgeable in your respective field. But how much does the success of Elastos actually depend on you, Rong? How capable is your team? Let's say, if you weren't around, or you know what I'm saying?
Question.
That's because we are after this alpha version. Actually, it's imminent, right? And the beta will be by the end of the year. And after beta, pretty much beta is meaning feature complete. It's not saying internet we know everything, already. If you think of 1995, 1994 for that matter, right? Before Netscape, there's a Mosaic. Actually, Mosaic was the proof of concept, and Netscape was the version 1, the first commercial grade product. And what I'm saying is we are demonstrating this proof of concepts here. And after this, really they could, we will welcome everybody to jump in because the completely open source, the decentralized. And we are going to make announcement by end of this, in 2 weeks, about this Cyber Republic. The majority of the tokens even not controlled by Elastos Foundation. Elastos Foundation controls only 1/10 of the total tokens. And the Cyber Republic controls about 50% of the tokens. That's that. It's a 5-to-1, okay?
Okay, but I mean, as far as the ability of the team,
I think what Kyle is trying to get at is development-wise, if you one day up and disappeared, would the functionality of the Elastos development team hinge on you personally?
No, actually, I haven't been programming for 8 years, 10 years now.
There we go.
And me is really not important. I'm literally not that important. I wish I could.
Don't say that.
To us, you are. But Rong, what I'm hearing from you, and it's really great that you're explaining this, is that you've set up a system, you've built it in so that you can literally walk away at some point and it can self-regulate, it can automate. And that
Very
is what the
important.
beauty is of Elastos, because essentially you're talking about this governance model that we've seen in other blockchain designs, but specifically with Elastos. Tell us one little bit more about that, because it is related to K-Dub's question as to what you're planning on doing so you can walk away and make sure that the integrity is still there for it to operate.
Because the internet definitely is beyond one person and beyond any one corporation and even beyond one country. If you look at the internet as a whole, what we have, right? We're trying to build a safer, more organized internet, yet it's not controlled because it's a decentralized ID, decentralized community, and having the carrier, having all the internet traffics being auto-generated silo to silo. And so then it's very hard to hijack, it's end-to-end encrypted. That said, the prototype's there already. And what my job is just promoting, to travel and go to Europe, go to US. I'll spend more time in the United States and basically to get the message.
Do interviews on YouTube.
Sounds like a good job.
you're the face of Elastos. That's your job, Rong.
Absolutely.
That's only because I couldn't programming anymore. So my
And K-Dub,
Rong,
did you have one last question?
Yes, I did. I did have one more question, and I do think that this is important to ask before we go. And I'm sorry if I'm holding us up, but
No,
I'm very concerned. You were talking about, obviously this is eventually everything's going to be open, everything's going to be available to the public, right? So my question is, what is going to stop an established multinational company such as Microsoft just coming along, lifting the entire code from GitHub, and then using their own existing infrastructure to implement their own version of Elastos? Is this a concern that you guys have?
Oh, definitely. I thought about it before because being, a Microsoft veteran, I know 20 years ago it's Microsoft, and
That's a good point.
first
And a very senior position in Microsoft as well, not just anybody in Microsoft. You had a very high and important role.
That's I was in the core team. That put it that way. I'm not really a core key person, but I was in the core team.
Yes.
There are two things to keep in mind. Xerox was the inventor of Windows. Why Xerox did not benefit the Windows invention, right? It's all, if you look back, the story is Steve Jobs is so smart and he went to Xerox PARC and so, wow, that's the future. Don't you think the inventor of Windows knew that was the future, right? It's not because Steve Jobs was genius, right? That's exaggerating. Because the key is,
I like the guy. He's all right.
the key, of course Steve Jobs is smart, right? But then people are saying he knew the Windows was the future. I would say the inventor of the Windows knew the Windows was the future.
Right.
And that said, it's only because of the mentalities of the stock market, right? The Xerox of the 80s could not open source. Xerox of 80s bear the burden of the profits of every quarter. They couldn't see the longer vision That's what you see Elon Musk was saying last week. Because even though people realize what's the future, but then they're kind of have their hands tied in their back, and there are so many things they can do.
Absolutely.
And,
now, there's so much more. Sorry, you go ahead, Ron. I'll let you keep going.
The second point is definitely we welcome Microsoft. If anybody could build a super secure and neutral decentralized internet, right? Elastos is not that important. As long as we achieve a upper calling, right? We have a decentralized internet, and then everybody could live in the not in the dark net, live in the bright net. Why should be Elastos?
Well, Ron, let's
have to be the one.
Right. Now, I want to finish off, Ron, before we, conclude and really thank you for your time. I want to talk about the community because they, or you, if you're listening and watching, you matter the most in this entire game that is crypto.
Absolutely.
And I really want to talk about how you continue to engage in the community, especially now with such extensive market volatility, such serious dips in the market. What are you doing to really, bolster and inform the community about what you're doing?
Well, first of all, we so far after we start this new decentralized internet drive last August. It's been a year. We have been hitting our milestones every time, and I'm not saying we won't miss a single time, right? Very likely we will miss some milestones, but then so far so good. If people look at the bigger picture, we want to build this new internet with ELA tokens being the utilities, right? For the IPFS, for those marketing engines, for those name rankings. So you can see the prospect of the usage of ELA, but so far we haven't got any because so far it's only a trading token, right? In exchanges.
I see.
So then we wanted our investors keep in mind, this is not a security token. This is not for exchanges. They are, but then they are not really. The main purpose is not really for exchanges. The main purpose actually is for usage because of your buying and selling this utilities, right? And keep in mind, after the alpha and beta, we're trying to create the need for people, buying tokens so then they can reach 1 million audience from their homes, right? Because definitely you cannot reach 1 million audience from your home. You have to buy IPFS tokens, and of course we're going to hide the new internet will use ELA tokens. If you look at the computer, the Dell computer pay for the hard drive, right? And we're building internet as a computer. We pay for Filecoin, but the consumers pay ELAs. The consumer pay for Dell, and Dell to buy hard drive. You see the logic there?
I love that though. I love that though because there's so many coins out there. There's so many tokens that I just don't get the utility of it. For me, it just seems like it was good for fundraising, but outside of that, it's like, what do I do with this thing?
Yeah. Right.
Because if you're doing a Seagate hard drive, you can do crowdfunding, but that's not literally. It's not a utility token.
Right. And on that note, obviously for time, Ron, we could talk for hours, and we really could, all of us, but there's been so much that you've informed us about, and thank you very much for your time. To redress some of those things, you've talked about you being a decentralized internet. You are talking about a very important world first in being a decentralized carrier. You've explained many different facets of what Elastos has done, is doing, and will do in the future. Thank you very much on behalf of the Token Tank, of all the panelists today, for your time, Ron, and we sincerely look forward to really understanding more about you in the future as you come on our channels, as you engage with more of the community. But once again, thank you on behalf of us all.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time. Nice talking to you.
You're very welcome. And thank you also, obviously, to the panelists here. We obviously have none other than the lady in the house, Crypto Kenda. Thank you very much for your time. K-Dub, thank you. And the Crypto Lark. There's no one better than Lark when it comes to really bringing entertainment to the blockchain in a serious way as well. But now it's time to really explore what we think of Elastos in terms of what we've heard and what we've read, and really allow you to engage in an insight in our discussion. So guys, now for something new, let's really have a conversation. What's our sentiment? What are we thinking about Elastos? And what can we relate to the community about our own, formulation and understanding?
For me, talking to Ron is really just reinforces a lot of what I think about Elastos anyway. It's a high level project. They're doing so much more than it's really easy to understand, even just from looking in. I mean, we just scratched the surface and tried to get some of the key addresses of the community out there, but it's massive. And it's really exciting that it's so big because they are trying to do something that's so important. You see how the internet's moving right now. We do need a new solution for the internet of the future. And I feel like Elastos has been one of the key providers in doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the big.
Kato?
I think one of the biggest problems is for a lot of like Western culture, we don't really truly understand the need for things like this, you know, because we do have like fast internet and all these other things. But when you really look at a need for something like Elastos to actually protect your own personal ID, your own individual assets that are actually yours, not owned by a third party, these are very, very important topics. And although we, like I said, in the West, we tend to just not care about them, they actually are really serious. And moving forward, you are going to see more of a demand for these types of services. And yeah, and honestly, just as a whole, it was really just a pleasure to talk to Rong. It was nice to pick his brain, and I'd be interested in diving even deeper with the guy, especially I feel like we could have talked a little more about tech. So I'd like to learn more about that as well. It's a very complex project, but yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you're going to get a chance to as well. What do you think as well, Crypto Kenda?
Well, kind of to touch on what you said, Caleb, you know, I actually had this not an argument, but I had this discussion with somebody a long time ago because I was always very pro privacy coin, and everybody's like, well, why are you pro privacy? I said, well, just because I don't need it doesn't mean there's not a use case for it. And like you said, with Elastos, we are kind of blessed infrastructure wise where we're located, you know, geographically, that we don't necessarily recognize the need for these things, but it's there, it exists, and it's definitely honorable what he's doing. Not to mention, this year sounds like it's going to be pretty crazy as far as the alpha and the boxes and, you know, the wallet. And so just the hardware aspect of things coming out for Christmas, like that's
actual product.
That's awesome.
Which is super exciting.
You know what's cool is that all four of us are really about objectivity. And what we really want to see is that empirical evidence. We want to see the products, you know, coming on, especially now in 2018, with the market the way it is, with all the different, you know, concerns the community have. We definitely need to be in that tech-driven sort of focus. And right now, in my opinion, Elastos is really showing the way in terms of the fact that they do have real things that they're onboarding that we can interact with. It's not just simply anymore the theory. It's not just simply the idea that Rong had of can we decentralize the web. It's literally now showing that there's steps forward and progress they're making, and they're certainly on track to do it. So without chilling, because that's not what we're about, it's about trying to find those gems of evidence that they're on their roadmap. They're really smashing out these plans.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Lloyd.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Well, one thing you guys were both mentioning is that, well, here in Western countries, the decentralized web isn't so important for us. I think it is an absolutely critical time for the countries in the West to get decentralized internet up and running because it's already happening. I mean, net neutrality laws were recently rolled back. Yeah. We already see that there's a massive amount of censorship happening from the tech giants in Silicon Valley themselves. They're the ones actually doing the censoring now. And the connection between government and the big tech companies is worryingly close. And so I am all about decentralized options for the internet.
Well, that and it's Facebook very and all the data theft too. It's like we need so much more than what our centralized entities can offer us right now.
Exactly. And I'm glad that they're thinking about this before the problem really hits the fan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, when's the best time to buy a plunger? Not while the toilet's flooded, right? Before. You know, like you want to be prepared for the.
Elastos, the plunger of the future.
And you know what's really funny?
All right, maybe that's not the best slogan.
And you know what's really funny is that all of us, we focused on YouTube as one of the platforms to provide for information. And ironically, you know, in terms of that structure, it's highly centralized. It doesn't really afford the content creator that much revenue. What I like about this,
crypto channels.
Right, and what I love about this opportunity is that it goes so far beyond just simply being that decentralized peer-to-peer carrier. It really literally affects people like us in the sense that it really allows for more incentivization and rewards, as it should be, because it really shouldn't be all this, you know, mechanistic controls from a centralized party. And the thing is with Elastos is that they've also got first entry position. They've got that early entry, and that's important too, because as you were saying, if we don't sort of acknowledge these efforts of these very brilliant men and these people leading out very decentralized code now, who's to say that that'll be lost, not lost in translation, as the decentralized parties who've got the capital can come in and really build something similar, but again, be very decentralized by design.
There you go.
You know, so there's so much that we could, explore. Is there anything that any of you guys want to add before we finish off in the convo?
I think we should leave some of the guesswork and decision making to the audience. Personally, I'm very interested in what everybody has to say, and obviously for anybody that's watching right now, the whole idea of this show is to get involved. So please leave your opinions, your comments, your concerns, questions anywhere below on whatever channel you're watching. For me, that's the most important thing, is to make sure that the community is not left in the dark. Essentially,
Absolutely.
And feedback. Give us feedback. What you like, what we're doing, what you don't like, what you'd like to see. We're very receptive. We all read our comments. We all talk about this stuff all the time with each other. So we're listening and we're here. So, we just need the engagement.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well, thank
Amen
you
to
to all. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to the pro panelists. Thank you all, obviously, from all the members of the Token Tank. It's been a privilege to be part of this very exciting project. And until next time, it's K-Dub, it's the Crypto Lark, it's the Crypto Kenda, and it's Blockchain Brad signing off until episode 4. Thank you very much.
See ya.